Could a new type of parallelism speed up the LLM inference? The new parallelism techniques from the NVIDIA could reduce the LLMs, could reduce the LLM inference latency, as the capabilities of the AI becomes more advanced, so does the reliance on AI to accomplish the more strenuous tasks. Users expect the AI models to respond with detailed information at the press of the button. Currently, the AI models leverage parallelism, but this parallelism has limitations as model sizes and complexity increase. To address this issue, NVIDIA introduced a new form of the parallelism called Palace parallelism. AI parallelism is the ability to execute multiple computation or processes simultaneously. While there are multiple forms of parallelism, the most common form is data parallelism. Faster computation of large amount of data is made possible by dividing the data into smaller parts, so which can be that is produced simultaneously. So the typical accelerated system with all-to-all network functionality enables an AI models to process gigabytes of the data in a matter of seconds. Google Gemini generated imaging. Multiple CPUs within the systems communication with each other while processing the decomposed data, while the parallelism can significantly reduce the time to take to process a large amount of data compared to doing it serially. The process itself is far from the perfect. Enter a Helix parallelism. Given the parent ability to the parallelism to improve the speed of the AI ecosystem is continuously working on ways to improve it. The NVIDIA has invented a new type of parallelism named Palace parallelism, designed for using the Blackwell GPUs. So according to the NVIDIA, the Palace and parallelism ties together multi-dimension of parallelism, KV, tensor, and expert into a unified execution loop. So the two major bottlenecks slow down the process of the decoding data as data set grows in size. The KV, the key and value cache streaming, is the first of these two bottlenecks. While the KV cache streaming can increase the speed of data retrieval by storing and reusing previously computed key and value vectors in the cache, a bottleneck can occur as the size of the KV cache increased because of the time processing required to sort through the large data set, especially if the data is being moved between the different storage layers, cache, memory, and storage. The RAM in particular can become overly saturated, resulting into increased token-to-token latency (TTL), and Helix parallelism tackles the KV cache streaming bottlenecks during the attention phase by applying the tensors parallelism across the attention heads (TPA). This ensures the each correct key value QV projection is split across the field the same number of the GPUs as the number of KV heads. This allows the duplication to be avoided, improve the TTL. The second bottleneck can occur is during the feedback-forward network (FFN) weight loading process, which adjusts the AI model weights and biases. The smaller batch sizes FFN weighted loading is used to reduce the amount of data required for training AI on tasks. So the large data set requires more memory and processing, which increases model latency. The Helix parallelism can eliminate this bottleneck by providing the GPU without any idle time, eliminating the most of the TTL during the FFF phase. It does this by using the pool of the GPUs during both of the intention and FFF phase. So in doing so, this causes the output of the all-to-all step to be already separated across the GPUs, allowing the post-attention linear projection to the immediately in tensor parallelism mode. The Palace parallelism can TTL by the up to 1.5 times at fixed batch sizes and supports up to 32 times larger batches under the same latency budget, according to the NVIDIA, based on the DeepSeek R1 67 billion. This is a step forward to efficient large language models and LLM inferences. The parallelism going forward. The Palik's parallelism furthers the domestic LLM that influenced by the enabling even larger data sets to be decoded at an even faster speed. NVIDIA using Blackwell announced that it will be bringing the Palik's parallelism inference frameworks in their future, and it will be no surprise if its competitors to look to something similar with the platforms. LLM performance and efficiency continue to improve with the Helix parallelism alongside other developments such as conditional computing and improved optimization algorithms. The pace of innovation is not slowing down. Okay. The next article about Apple. Apple reportedly set to invest $100 billion into the production of the critical component in the U.S. to avoid tariffs in the iPhones. Domestic commitment reached $600 billion. But which components? The Apple is set to invest an additional $100 billion into U.S. manufacturing in a bid to avoid punishing tariffs punishing tariffs on the iPhones, according to the Bloomberg. That would raise the company's total U.S. commitment to $600 billion. So with the announcement expected to be made by Apple CEO Tim Cook and U.S. President Donald Trump. The plan features a new initiative aimed at relocating world Apple's production network to the United States. The intention reportedly includes the effort to manufacture additional and critical components of the Apple product domestically, though it is unclear which components these are. So the President Trump's America First economic agenda has secured trillions of dollars in investment that support American jobs and boost American business. So the hardware, White House spokesman Taylor Roger said in a statement published by the Bloomberg. Today's announcement with Apple is another win for our manufacturing industry that simultaneously help reshore the production of the critical components to protect America's economic and national security. The biggest intrigue of the announcement is what Apple considers a critical component. Some of Apple's processors for mobile devices are already produced by the TSMC at its Fab 21 in Arizona. So unless the Apple plans to come in any additional semiconductor fabrication facility with TSMC to exclusively make it silicon, the company should be looking at the other components. This may include custom radio frequency modules and 5G modems, yet Apple already has a multi-layer, multi-billion deal with Broadcom for this. Or advanced packaging and assembly of Apple processors, rather than system in package for various applications. Again, Apple has a deal with Amkor, but the latter still has not started building a fab. Earlier this year, the Apple revealed plans to allocate the $500 billion toward the US-based project over the next 4 years. This including the building a server production in the site in Houston, Texas, launching a training center for suppliers in Michigan, and increasing spending with the current American partners. The latest announcement boosts Apple's total U.S. investment plans to $6 billion, according to the White House. However, after Apple announced its $500 billion U.S. investment plan, President Trump warned that it would have to face a minimum 55% import tax on iPhones if it failed to bring its manufacturing to the U.S. This warning came a day after he met with the CEO Tim Cook at the White House. So Apple has been trying to do exemption from this punitive tariffs for its handset, most of which are produced in China and India. The $100 billion is part of the broader effort to plead the government and avoid the tariffs. During Trump's previous term, the Apple successfully secured the exemption from import taxes, achieving the similar treatment again, which would help the company avoid cost increases that hurt the profit margins and/or make its devices more expensive in the United States. As an added bonus, it could also offer an edge over foreign competitors such as Samsung. The Trump is also preparing to impose new tariffs on products that include semiconductors, potentially starting as next week. In addition, a set of country-specific trade barriers affecting many of the U.S. global trade partners is scheduled to begin this Thursday. Okay, next one is China Semiconductor mega merger strategy reported to Sterling. The new report said the high-level merger plans to strengthen the domestic chip industry face multiple headwinds. Too many companies, too many owners. Despite the best efforts of the Chinese authorities to encourage the country's semiconductor industry to unify under dominant players, the plan is struggling. A high-level merger plan involving equipment makers has stalled, while many announced acquisitions either failed to complete or offer a little strategic value due to valuation disputes, local politics, and a weak technology foundation, and according to the Financial Times. Mergers between the fab tool makers are struggling. When chip makers buy a group of tools, they want their equipment to work seamlessly. However, as there are dozens of companies in China producing similar machinery, matching their tools together is a hard task. The smallest domestic producer of the wafers, fabbing equipment, and making their combined offering more competitive. The Chinese authorities gathered several domestic semiconductor tool makers to discuss forming a single and government-backed entity earlier this year. This effort, directed by the National Development and Reform Commission (NDRC), is aimed at the consolidating various producers of chip-making tools under one roof to reduce the inefficiencies, to make tools more compatible with each other, and ultimately reduce or even replace reliance on U.S. companies like Applied Materials, KLA, or Lam Research. However, the insider reportedly told the FT that the negotiations have made a little headway to do the divisions of control and pricing. The parties involved in the talks have opposing goals, which include private investors and local authorities that own significant or even controlling stake in the semiconductor companies are reluctant to dump assets below the market estimated, while potential buyers refuse to pay more than I believe that their companies are worth. Actually, this ambitious vision for a large-scale consolidate has been scheduled back. The final outcome is expected to be far smaller than initially envisioned. The initial effort is not something unexpected. China's semiconductor sector has been experiencing the wave of the abundant product as dozens of smaller companies have collapsed in recent years. So in response, authorities have been pushing the M&A activities of IPOs and aiming to consolidate resources in fewer, stronger companies with a national significance that spend more than R&D and achieve the better result. This might have serious some money. As they will not be spreading the capital across many weaker players. Nonetheless, there is some good news too. Raoru Technology, China's large chip equipment manufacturer that specializes in etching and decomposition equipment, has taken over 9.49% stake in King Semi and photolithography coating equipment maker for $235 million. Just like other mergers, nonetheless, most mergers fail or progress very slowly. This year alone, 8 announced deals have already fallen through, including one between the Empyrean Technology and Expedi, a developer of the electronics EDA automation EDA tools used in the development of the processors. For now, neither company can build tools compatible with the leading-edge process technologies, but a merged entity would have more money to invest in appropriate software. However, the financial result is uncertain, as both companies are too small to compete against the market leaders Cadence, Synopsys, and Siemens EDA. So the progress in the merger is actually produced in the chip is also lagging. Many of China's semiconductor fabrication projects, including some of the SMIC's advanced fabs, were funded by a local government over the past decades, often in parallel, leading to the exceeded capacity in mature technologies and fierce price wars. While advanced manufacturing lines are being developed in places like Shanghai and Shenzhen, and the overall landscape remains fragmented with overlapping efforts and dispersed talent. Meanwhile, the local authorities are reluctant to offload their investment and sell fab, they are unwilling to face criticism for financial losses. There are some bright spots. While the mega mergers efforts in the fab tools and fab factors are struggling, the daily activities of the broader semiconductor sector has picked up. So in far in 2025, they have 26 semiconductor-related mergers announced according to the FD, citing data from the wind. Among these, the most notable is planned now union between the Sugon, supercomputer maker, and its daughter's company's Hygon, which is known as its Diana CPUs based on the AMD's Gen 1 microarchitecture. So, okay, next one is Two Chinese nationals arrested in the U.S. over GPU smuggling worth tens of millions of dollars. Over 20 shipments of the AI chips and numerous illicit payments tracked. The U.S. Department of Justice has arrested two Chinese nationals on a federal criminal complaint that alleged they export the AI GPUs worth tens of billions of dollars to China in exchange for cash. Chuan Kung, 28, and of the Pasadena, and Xi Weiyang, 28, of the Elmont, face up to 20 years in prison if found guilty, as according to the DOJ. As stated in the press release, two alleged offenders have been charged with violating the Export Control Reform Act from October 2022 to July 2025. Each alleged that they are used to a company, so ALX Solutions Incorporation, to knowingly and willfully export sensitive technologies, including the GPUs, from the U.S. to China without license or authorization. So each alleged the company was set up shortly after the Commerce Department started requiring such licenses for the very same goods Yang and Gang are said to have exported, implying it was done so explicit for explicit purpose. According to the expert records, the achievement December 2024 and at least 20 previous achievements from the companies involved the export from the U.S. to the shipping and the freight forwarding companies in Singapore and Malaysia. Known transshipment point to a struggle GPUs into China. The charges state the ALX Solutions never received payment from the entities they were allegedly selling the goods to, but rather received numerous payments from the companies in Hong Kong and China, including one worth $1 billion in January 2024. The December 2024 shipment was purportedly labeled and claiming it was sending GPUs subject to federal laws and regulations, when in reality it contained unlicensed GPUs. The release does not specify which chips the pairs were allegedly moving between the U.S. and China. However, the chip, singular, implying only one variant, was made by the manufacturers of high-performance AI chips, each quoted as being the most powerful GPU chip on the market, and is designed specifically for AI applications, including developing self-driving cars and medical diagnosis systems on other AI-powered applications. Therefore, it seems highly plausible that the chip in question is likely NVIDIA 1800 or B200. So the law enforcement has reportedly searched the office of the offending the shell company, seizing the phones that include incriminating the communication between the defendant after surrendering to the authorities August 2nd. The gun was released on a $250,000 bond. On August 20, a 12 detention hearing has been set for Yang, who remained in custody because they are in the U.S. illegally, having overstayed their visa. Arrangement is scheduled for September 11th. U.S. Senate approves Intel board over CEO Lip-Tan's former China links, raises national security concern amid a cascade scandal. When you purchase, okay, the appointment of the Liputan as Intel's CEO has promoted U.S. Senator Tom Cotton to scrutinize his past business ties to Chinese tech firm and whether those connections threaten Intel's role in American defense-linked supply chains. As reported on by Reuters, in a letter to a board chair, Frankie Erie, Cotton questions whether the board vetted tens involved in companies with ties to the Chinese military and if he sufficiently divested from them prior to leading Intel. Intel is actively involved in the federal security Enclave's initiative, which aims to secure the microelectronics for the U.S. defense use, and holds a roughly $3 billion contract with the Department of Defense. Cotton's letter is asked whether the town's investment history could compromise the Intel's obligations under such programs. Intel has landed in hot water surrounding national security concerns multiple times before too. As background, a Reuters investigation in April revealed that Atan invested $200 million in over 600 Chinese firms, though his beloved venture firm, Weldon International and related entities. Several firms were tied to the People's Liberation Army, including early investment in SMIC and a partnership with state-linked companies such as China Electronics Corporation. Although the teacher was claimed the Chinese database still listed many of those firms as active holdings, raising the compliance questions. And Tan also led the Cadence Designs until 2023. Cadence recently agreed to plead guilty and pay over $104 billion after selling chip design tools to Chinese military university involved in the nuclear situation work under the Tan's leadership. As Cotton also specifically asked whether the Intel board was aware of the subpoenas received by Cadence while the Tan was CEO, and what measures were taken to address concern. Intel responded, stating that both companies are committed to the national security and will cooperate with the board inquiry. It also stated both Intel and Tan were deeply committed to the national security of the United States. This scrutiny isn't merely political theater, as Intel's fate is close to tied to the global tech giants and its foundry ambitions. Yet, under new leadership, Intel also faced industry speculation about whether its foundry roadmap for customers and could shift, leaving behind its 18A process in favor of the future nodes like 14A to major clients such as Apple and Nvidia, a scenario Intel has since rejected, reforming its commitment to 18A as a cornerstone of its strategy. Such a strategic shift, for lack thereof, underscore why trust and compliance are critical. Tan's credentials as a Seagen's investment who helped build China's early semiconductor ecosystem are praised by the analysts as key for Intel's turnaround. However, the same legacy also opened the door to concerns about conflict of interest, specifically given Tan's deep investment in firms now subject to export control and sanctions. The earlier this year reports hinted that Intel could undergo structural change, including since debunked facilities divestitures, and among ongoing struggle to catch up to TSMC. This being said, the company has constantly highlighted its commitment to the foundry business, recently calling it essential to its long-term strategy. In this context, CEO's personal ties may carry real implications, not just optics, potentially affecting the investment confidence, the regulatory scrutiny, and how globally connected talent is evaluated in U.S. tech firms with defense significance. Another next article is about the Huawei making its Tencent AI chip for toolkit open source to better compete against CUDA. Huawei is getting the better and making the AI GPUs, and I want to increase the adoption of its technology on software side. Hardware has a green lead a plan to open source its CAN software toolkit for HS and AI GPUs, according to the South China Morning Post. Huawei is making this move in order to better compete against NVIDIA and its close CUDA software ecosystem. Open source CAN and a computed architecture for a neural network could further speed up the development innovation and improve the usability of the Huawei Ascent AI GPUs. Furthermore, Huawei has reported already has held talk with China's leading AI players, business partners, and universities and research institutions of how to build an open source to Ascent ecosystem. CAN is a heterogeneous computing architecture that provides multiple layers programming interfaces to help users build AI applications tailored to hardware Ascent AI GPUs at a high GPUs. So at a high level, it's a Huawei version of the CUDA, which provided the same interfaces for NVIDIA GPUs. Huawei's decision to open source its CAN software kit could further enhance China's effort to build self-sufficiency from the Western chip makers and incentivize developers to build software for its ancient AI GPUs. The performance of those chips is catching up to NVIDIA's Blackwell P series GPUs in the right environment too. NVIDIA is notorious for keeping its CUDA programming languages closest off the moat and the swamp, a trait that has been the key frustration for the developer for years. The CUDA is the tightly bound ecosystem that have little supported beyond NVIDIA's own hardware, forcing developers to use NVIDIA GPUs exclusively if they want to build software in CUDA. There has been initiatives like Juluda that have attempted to bring the CUDA functionality to other GPU vendors through the translation layer, but they have largely been unsuccessful due to the pushback by the NVIDIA. NVIDIA banned the use of translation layers in 2024, starting with the CUDA version 11.6. Making CAN open source could provide Huawei with an accelerated avenue to adoption for its homebrew software toolkit. However, it will likely take years before the CAN will approach the maturity of the CUDA, which has been around for nearly 20 years and has been constantly updated as released. Okay. Children ecosystem gains momentum with the Internet TSMC NVIDIA backing. As the leading semiconductor companies called for a stronger adoption of open chiplet standards at the OPC APEC Summit 2025 in Taipei, highlighting the growing industry consensus around modular architectures and open ecosystem as a foundation for the future data center and the high-performance computing infrastructures. Industry coverage on a modular solution. As AI workloads continue to escalate, the traditional monolithic chip design is approaching the physical and economic limits. And industry participants at the summit agreed that the modular chiplet architecture offers a viable alternative, but only if built on open and interoperable standards. In a breakout sessions titled Innovation with the Plug-and-Play Chiplet for Next Generation Computing Using the Universal Chiplet Interconnect Express, UCIe, Dan Brad Das Shamar, Intel Senior Fellow and the Chair of the UCI Consortium, described the UCI as an open package interconnect standard intended to serve as a PCIe for chiplets. Since Intel dominated the initial specification in 2022, and the consortium has expanded to over 140 members, including the TSMC, NVIDIA, Samsung, and other key players. MediaTek and the TSMC champions open standard. The theme of the ecosystem with the collaboration was reinforced during another panel titled Chiplet Technology in AI Era, Opportunity and Challenges, moderated by Eric Huang, Vice President at NTT Times, CK Peng, and the Industrial Management Director at MediaTek at UCI reserved. Okay, thank you for your time and see you next time. I will continue to read it next time.